Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I am reviewing a pen that is definitely not a new pen on the market. The pen is this is the Sailor Pro Gear. I included this pen in my favorite most used pens of 2020 video, and in preparing that realized I'd never actually reviewed it, and I think it's a pen that is certainly worth reviewing. There are many reviews of this pen model, so I thought I would just put my little 2 cents worth in. So I'll give it a little background. I will talk about the pen, show some specifications, do a little writing sample and pros and cons and all of that sort of stuff. So this is the Sailor Pro Gear. Sailor, a Japanese pen brand founded in 1911. They have a huge history of producing super high quality fountain pens. Now, this is not like a Mont Blanc 149 or, a high-end Visconti that people are going to, crave and have as their grail pen. But this is a pen that if you are a pen lover, this is a pen that you will recognize as being a really wonderful everyday writing pen. It is in a slightly higher price point than a lot of sort of, standard everyday writers, but it is just such a reliable, wonderful pen. So this is the Sailor Pro Gear. There are a number of different versions. There's the Slim, there's the Sapporo, there's the Sailor Pro Gear 2, all of that sort of stuff. And of course the big fancy version, the King of Pen. But this is the standard version. So let's talk about the pen. Flat top, flat bottom, which I really love, that sort of design. Sort of slightly bulbous design, it does swell out to the middle there. On the top of the pen there is the anchor logo of Sailor, which I think is actually really cool. It's actually one of those features of the pen that I really love. See, pen swells slightly to the band, which the clip is attached to the bottom of, and it's a nice sort of firm, springy clip. The cap swells out to this single band and then a larger band that has Sailor Japan, founded 1911 engraved there on the band, and then a little taper down to the barrel, and the barrel tapers to another ring, and then the end of the pen, which is just a plain sort of a blank finial there. So the pen is a screw to cap pen, and it unscrews in one and about a third, 2/3 screws, and reveals a small but beautiful two-tone 21 carat rhodium plated gold nib. You can see a little bit of two-tone there. It's got 1911, the anchor logo, and 21K875 engraved on the nib there, as well as some nice little bits of scroll work. And then on the side here, it says H-M, which means hard medium. This is a standard hard medium nib, and it's a beautiful nib. As I said, rhodium plated 21 carat gold. There's a little, the section has a tiny flare on the end, and then sort of swells out to a silver or chrome band. All the finish on this pen is chrome. This is where the pen unscrews to reveal the converter or the cartridge, depending on what you use. This is a cartridge converter pen using proprietary Sailor converters and cartridges, which I will talk about in just a minute as well. You can see there's like a little O-ring just there in the top of the screws. That really helps the body sort of lock down, making it a very secure capping, screwing into the barrel there. The threads are super smooth, like really smooth, and you can barely feel them, and there's no sort of big noticeable step down. It doesn't matter where you hold this pen, it is going to be sort of comfortable under your fingers. Now, it is a smaller pen in this respect. It is a pen that is designed to be posted for writing, and when you do post it, it fits nicely in your hand, and it posts deep enough that the ring of the cap sits nicely on the webbing of your hand and gives it really good balance when you write with it posted. So that is the parts and basic sort of features of the pen. It is just made of resin. In this case, it's the black resin with the silver trim or the chrome trim. Let's talk about some specs for this pen then. So firstly, we'll do a size comparison. I'll just put it alongside two sort of standard pens that people know about, which is the Lamy Safari and the TWSBI Eco here. You can see that it is definitely a shorter pen when it is capped there. And now just in comparison to the Lamy, when the Lamy is uncapped, it's still a much smaller pen, and posting it brings it to, a sort of a very usable size. As I showed it to you, in my hand, it fits very nicely. The Lamy is still longer when it is capped there. The size of the Sailor Pro Gear is, when it's capped, it is 129 millimeters. So it is on the smaller size, something like a Lamy being around the 140. Uncapped, it's 116, which for some people is going to be too small, but posted, we get a pen that is around 149 millimeters, which is a very, very comfortable length. And because it is a slightly girthier pen, both in terms of the body, you get a bit of girth from the sort of swell of that cap, but also the section, which comes in at about 10.5 millimeters, it certainly doesn't feel small in your hand. Not a super heavy pen at 25 grams, 17 of which is in the body of the pen and 8 in the cap. So the weight of the pen still feels nice and balanced in your hand, no matter what. So let's do a writing sample, and then we'll talk about some pros and cons. So here I have some plain Clairefontaine paper, and we'll do a quick writing sample. I should say, the pen posts very, very securely. It never comes sort of free in your hand, and it's, very nice, sort of pen in the hand. So what we have here is the Sailor Pro Gear, or Professional Gear, as I think it was originally more commonly branded, with a 21 carat gold. This is a hard medium nib. The ink here is a very safe, very happy, and very common, which is why I've used it here, because people will know how this ink performs. Waterman Serenity Blue. Now, what you'll probably already tell is that there is a bit of feedback. That was me lifting the pen off the page there. There's a bit of feedback on this nib. That is normal for Sailor. It isn't rough, it isn't scratchy, it's just feedback. It lets you know you're on the page, and you could easily smooth that out, but this is the way that they come. But you can see it lays down a beautiful, smooth, consistent line. Not super wet, but definitely not a dry writer. And this is not a super wet ink as well, which is the reason why it's always good to test pens in with. You can see that it writes well sort of under its own weight. I'm not applying any pressure there whatsoever. Flex wise, I'm not going to push this. It is a gold nib and one that I don't want to destroy, but you can get a tiny bit of, well, railroads very quickly, but a tiny bit of sort of line variation. It's more laying more ink than line variation. It's just a bit of spring in the nib because of that gold content. It's definitely not a stiff, rigid nib, even though it is a hard nib. But the soft nibs are not flex nibs. They are just soft, a bit more spring in them. Reverse writing is definitely possible. Definitely get a few words out of that. And I think it's just a generally very, very comfortable, very nice pen to write with. And you can see, the line that it lays down is beautiful and smooth, consistent. As I said, not super dry, just a really lovely writer. So now let's talk some pros and cons. Let's start with the cons here for the Sailor Pro Gear. And there is only really one that I come up with. And that is the fact that it is a cartridge converter pen. Now, I have no issue with cartridge converter pens. I love them. I change my inks regularly, and I find it is a easy method to clean, and it's a safe method and one that I am absolutely comfortable with. I love piston fillers, I love vac fillers, but I'm absolutely happy with cartridge converter. The ink capacity may not be amazing, but the issue I have is actually with the converters themselves. Sailor makes horrible converters. Like, the quality of them. I've had these converters fail. They're just not nice converters to use. The mechanisms aren't super smooth, and they're pretty expensive. So this is the third converter I've had in this pen in just over a year. I can justify it because it is such a great pen to write with, but if this pen didn't write like this, I'd be using other methods. Now, Sailor does produce a large range of cartridge ink as well, and you can refill those cartridges. The pen comes with a cartridge, so that's great. But Sailor needs to get their head around their converters. Like, the capacity is okay, but the quality and the functionality of them is not great. The other, not pro, but the other thing to consider with this is the price of this pen. This is not a cheap pen. So you can, often it's more expensive than this, but you can find it in the US for around the $275 mark, a couple of dollars either side, which is roughly the $350, $355 Australian mark, which is not super cheap. But you are getting a 21 karat gold nib in a beautiful pen that fits beautifully in the hand. What do I love about it? Well, I love the size. Small, easy to, to take around with you. Great size for, you can jot a few quick notes without having to post it. When it's posted, it fits beautifully in the hand. The balance is great, and it's wonderful. The nib is lovely, firstly, to look at. A smaller nib, not a huge nib, but writes beautifully. Smooth, reliable, elegant. And there's that word, reliable. You are paying a price for this pen, but you are getting a pen that writes first time, every time, super reliably, never lets you down. I also love the design of this pen. Like the shape, there's that sort of slightly bulbous body I like. The flat top and bottom I really like. The placement of the logo there on the finial, that anchor logo, I just think is great. The other thing I love is that this is a brand with history. Sailor have been around for over 100 years. They produce great quality pens. They're reliable. They know what they're doing. Japanese craftsmanship and design, and in a fountain pen that is just beautiful to write with. So this was the Sailor Pro Gear Black with the chrome trim. I really enjoy this pen. I think it is one of those more expensive pens that is definitely worth the money, but also at a price point that isn't extravagant in comparison to some other pens that just do not write as well as this. So if this is a pen you're interested in, go and check it out in person, get your hands on one, borrow one, whatever you need to do, but they are definitely worth having a look at and worth having in your collection. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. Please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at @the_offstage_me, or you can contact me on any of my videos here or drop me an email which is listed down below. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you'd like to support the channel by sponsoring a review or providing an item for review, I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.